Welcome to selfdiscoverymedia.com, where we discover the communities that are making a difference in the lives of others. Our self-discovery is something we are all making on our life's journey. Here you will find the people that will be your guidance, that will be your inspiration, that will be there for you in support on your journey of life. Do enjoy. Our next show is... Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome back to a wonderful show of Ignite Your Heart and Soul right here on selfdiscoverymedia.com. I am your host, Sarah Troy. My guest today is David Schwerin, and we're going to be talking about conscious capitalism, principles of prosperity, that the world is in a turmoil, we're in a crisis, life is shaking us up, it's trying to get our attention, which I keep saying about, shake it up to change it up. What on our part do we have to do to fix things? Self-knowledge is the key, he says, as more and more people unearth their distorted beliefs and their misconceptions, they make the appropriate changes. The world will begin to change right before their eyes. And, I'm always actually saying that we are the change that we seek. We are the answer. But first, we have to ask the question, and that is, what can I do to change my own life in order to be a better contributor to the life as a whole? Welcome to the show, David.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate being here.
I have a saying that was given to me about 2.5 years ago, that the universe is here to shake us up, to wake us up, to step up and change it up. So, you're talking about we are being woken up and being asked to step up and change it up. People keep pointing to everyone else for the change, but they don't realize the change lies within them, and that first they need to make changes within them before those changes can apply outside.
That's exactly right. And we're getting the opportunity to do that now. And hopefully we'll take advantage of it. There's a lot going on, as everybody knows, but there's stuff going on that probably some of us are not so aware of. And we have to, what I see happening now is that we're being helped to see some of our stuff, our negativity.
Mm-hmm.
And unless you can see it, unless you're aware of it, you can't change it.
Right.
So we're seeing a lot of negativity out there, a lot of things going on that we don't like. And hopefully this will be enough to get us to make changes, which is not easy. And we all prefer the status quo. So sometimes we need a little bit more stirring the pot to be willing to make those changes.
Yeah. You talk about beliefs, and, beliefs are very much to do with old programming. We're programmed throughout our entire lives. We have the DNA programming, we have the ancestral programming, we've probably got past life programming. And, that programming was kind of based on what the need was or perception of the need at the time. But it doesn't mean it's the blueprint that you need to follow. And we really have to look at certain programs that we have inside of us and say, are they serving us? Because if they're not, they're making us dysfunctional. And we're then bringing that dysfunction into everything else that we do.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And it's hard. We all get into a rut, and we're not happy about looking at things that we have to look at. A lot of what has to be looked at is our own negativity.
Yeah.
Our own fears, our own pride and self-will, and selfishness.
Yes.
And a whole bunch of things. You can think of a lot of things. And
the list can go quite long.
It's long, and it's not flattering.
No.
And so it's hard to do, and we prefer not to do it. And the universe is saying, well, enough is enough.
Mm-hmm.
Let's look at these things and see if they're making life the way you want it. And it becomes pretty clear in a short period of time, if you're at all observant, that things are not working well, and we have to make changes. And we've gotten past the point where incremental changes are enough.
Mm-hmm.
We have to make bold new changes, really start from the beginning in some cases.
Yes.
whether it's our
Yes.
education system or our healthcare system,
Hmm.
um, uh, or our political system. They all need major changes. And if we come to the conclusion, which we hope we will, that things are not working the way we want, we'll be willing to make those hard changes. And if we're not, then we'll get a tougher lesson.
Yeah, yeah. I'm always saying that Mother Earth is telling us right now, look how we thrive without you.
Right.
Consider this a warning. And if you do not come back out in respect and value of what you're given and gratitude, we may press the delete button next time. So we're getting the nudge, nudge, wink, wink. But if we don't, really kind of pull our socks up, so to speak, we may get the cosmic 2x4. And, I think that certain countries, like America, despite the people who've made the efforts to comply and to speak out about, the simple thing of isolation or at least keeping distance, washing hands, wearing a mask, simple things. Don't go out if you're feeling sick, simple things. Be considerate and respectful of other people, simple things you should be doing anyway. That still seems to be completely and utterly ignored. Oh, conspiracy theory and everything else. How many people have to die before people will take it seriously? And how come we've come as a human nation that so much destruction has to happen before we wake up?
That's a $64 question. And I don't know how much has to happen, but clearly it's not enough yet. Um, Now, that's not to say that some people don't get it.
Yeah, exactly.
There are many people who get it, and a growing number of people who get it, but they're still not the majority. And we need that critical mass. We don't need to have everybody.
Hmm.
We need a critical mass to get it. And once that's achieved, the rest will come along.
Yeah, we've tilted the scale,
Right. So
find the balance.
it's not as hopeless as you
Hmm.
might think, um, but it still needs work. And we're getting this pause with the pandemic as an
Hmm.
opportunity to take a look around, see what's happening, see where we are and where we're going. If we do nothing, what's the
Yeah.
trajectory? And hopefully, more and more people will be looking in that direction, and will say, "Wait, we got to change things," and I mean significantly. Um, I'm hopeful.
You've just gone into the dark there, love. We need your light.
Did I? I think. Wait a minute. Well,
You went into the dark, which is rather like, the darkness that we will go into if we don't pay attention.
yeah,
But
yeah.
let there be light, and that light is knowledge and wisdom and
It,
clarity. And as you said, there's so many people that are stepping up right now, and it's really endearing to see. How people how industries changed their entire machinery to making masks or to making respirators, or how restaurants and how other industries got out there serving food to the people on the front lines and to people who are challenged in putting food on the table right now. We're seeing the worst of humanity, but we're also seeing the best of humanity. And that's where the light needs to be shone on, isn't it? Those people that have stepped up, that
right.
have risen up, that have found other ways to do things, in encouragement, in inspiration, because those are the people that we want to follow. They're our emulators.
Yeah, and it really just is a change in mindset
Mm,
from we are spiritual beings having a
yeah.
physical experience,
Mm.
not um, physical beings that you know
Dabble in spiritual.
babbling. Yeah. So when we realize and we set the direction, wait a minute, we're spiritual beings. Let's act that way
Yeah.
and realize that we're all in this together. We're all connected, and the pandemic shows us that more vividly than most
Mm.
things, because if the virus is anywhere, nobody's safe.
Right.
We have to be helping everybody to get through this
Yeah.
and working together and contributing. And so the universe does exactly what it needs to do to get our attention,
Mm.
and hopefully this will be enough to get it.
hopefully, and certainly never in the history of time that I know of, has the whole world gone through something at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And, everybody's been in this together. And we've seen some countries manage it brilliantly and they just don't have any cases anymore. And we've other countries who've ignored it or even looked at it, as a genocide. And other countries where, are divided. And I think was in any crisis, wartime, any crisis, natural, we see the best rise, when we come together. But shouldn't we be like that all the time? Why do we only rise in the time of crisis? We don't have to treat everything in life as a crisis, but why can't we always be at that level of kindness, caring, and helping one another?
Well, we certainly can be and should be. And perhaps if we get the message now and make the changes that have to be made, and we see the positive results, we'll be willing to keep it that way and not go back to the old way. But it really comes down to, in my view, to understanding who we are,
Mm,
and um, and that's really why I wrote my recent book about Know Your Soul,
mm,
because when you know who you are, when you know you're part of a soul, the soul has a intention, has a, um, a plan.
mm-hmm.
It has something for each of us to do, to contribute.
The blueprint.
And when we focus on that, when we know that that's what's important is, and and we start to comply with it, so to speak, then life flows much more easily, and we're much happier, and good things happen. But when we buck the trend, when we use our free will, which we all have,
Mm-hmm.
but when we use it in ways that are contrary to what our soul has in mind, that's when we get in trouble.
Yes.
So part of my path, what I have learned, though sometimes hasn't been easy, I've struggled with it, but is to learn to surrender to
Mm,
your soul.
mm-hmm.
Um, don't resist what's coming your way, and don't cling to things that you like if they're not good for you, just
Right.
because we think they're good. And the surrender piece is really big for everybody.
Yeah.
It's a lifelong lesson, and I've been taught it in, in numerous ways.
Mm-hmm.
I now understand it, that it's important, and that doesn't mean it won't be challenging, um, but the sooner that we agree to comply, so to speak, the better our life is, and better things flow, and our relationships blossom, and life is just better. So that's why I wrote the book Know Your Soul Brings Joy to Your Life, as one of the co-authors. And it's important work. It's and I'm saying that not because I wrote it, because most of it was given to me
Right.
by my masters, by my
Mm-hmm.
guides, and Archangel Michael in particular. But
He's a busy guy, Archangel. Michael. He
yeah,
really
he
is.
is,
Yes.
and I was very happy to follow his guidance,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and it really helps us know who we are. That we're part of the
Yeah.
soul, what our
Yeah.
purpose is, what the origin of the soul is, what the structure of the soul is. All this
Mm-hmm.
is in the book. What how you connect with your soul,
Mm-hmm.
and personal experiences that we have had dealing with our soul.
Yes.
So
Many journeys. Yeah.
yes,
You
so
know,
it's
I always say the humans' biggest obstacle is getting out of their head.
mm,
And that when you choose to listen to the soul,
mm-hmm,
the divine truth, the knowledge, and it resonates with your heart, you
right,
then give it to your spirit into action. Your mind will know what it needs to know when it needs to know it.
yeah,
But when we go from the head down and we block the heart and spirit and soul's intellect, we are running into the what if all the time, and it can't be done. And just the constant treadmill of obstacles. But when we bring the soul's knowledge in with the heart resonance, we know what to do. The mind knows what to do. All that data that's in there knows what's applicable to that knowledge that needs to be done at that time. So a lot of the times it's getting out of our own ego, getting out of our own way, and allowing that channel of the soul information to come through to you, because that's called clarity.
Right.
We are in retrograde, folks, and unfortunately there was a little disruption there in what David was saying, so we're going to ask him to repeat that again. We want to hear about your soul talk.
Okay, well, my soul journey has led me to China, and I didn't realize this at the time. I learned about this after the fact, but what I've discovered in the 9 trips that I've made to China is that when we're doing our soul's work, or the tasks that we're asked to do, things flow smoothly.
Mm-hmm.
Because I left for trips to China many times, not knowing what was going to happen, or who was going to be there, or what would happen. And lo and behold, every trip was handled beautifully.
Mm-hmm.
And so I know that my guides were the advanced people and handling things. And in doing that, I've learned that the universe is friendly and will help us. And so it's been wonderful to know that when we're in concert with our soul, we get tremendous help.
Yeah.
No matter what we're doing. And so that's an important lesson that sometimes we have to experience to really have confidence in, but it is one that I have that has helped me greatly. And it takes some courage to just surrender, accept, and things work out well when you do that.
Yeah, I think when we stop dictating how things should be and allow things to be, we get a feeling for something, follow that feeling. We should feel our knowledge. If our feeling isn't in sync with our knowledge, then that's just knowledge, data, and it's not wisdom. But when the heart and soul is in sync with the mind, then we really are looking at wise wisdom here, and that's the clarity that says allow, go with it. And the other factor is that as human beings, we love to do things by manuals. I want to know what's the next step, what's the itinerary, what's this, what's that. But when we allow and go with the flow, we are in discovery. And in that discovery, we don't know what we're going to receive or when we're going to receive it. We just know we're open to receive it. And it's really exciting, isn't it?
It is, and I'll have to be honest with you, that is a challenge for me. I'm learning more and more that that's the right process, and that when I do that, things work out well. But it's not always my first instinct.
Right.
And so it's a process for all of us to make mistakes, learn, adjust, and it's when we look back on it, we say, geez, it was obvious what we should have done.
Yeah.
And hopefully we'll improve going forward and not have those little hiccups.
Right. Well, as you said, it takes courage. And I think one of the journeys in life, and the people I love interviewing, are those who are willing to go through the process, go through the journey. And, sometimes they've had multiple cosmic 2x4s, and sometimes things that they've had to go through that no human should have to go through, quite horrific. But they found their strength and they found their courage. They found that calling that was stronger than them to help them through it. And now they've stepped into that calling, and they would never be where they are today doing what they're doing, loving who they are, had they not gone through that process, had the cosmic 2x4 not happened. So sometimes when things happen to us, we go, Why me? What does this mean? If we're willing just to go to learn from it, what am I meant to do with this? Go through the healing process, we will understand that in the end, it actually is a gift, isn't it?
Yeah, that's well said, and exactly right. It's a process, a learning process. Um, there are no mistakes. Everything happens for a reason, even though when we're going through it, we don't understand it a lot of the time. But when we're willing to just go with it, surrender, we come out much better at the other end. And when we look back, we say, "Geez, why did I ever, you know, not accept that and just go with it?" So it's an amazing creation,
Yes, yes,
and uh, and the only way through is through. The only way through
yes,
is to experience it.
yes. There
And,
is there is no other alternative, no quick downloadable app, no paying someone else to do it for you, no
right,
avoiding it. It's go through or stagnancy, one or the other, right?
right.
There's
And
another,
we have free choice.
yes, yes, we do. We
So
do.
we can fight it,
Yeah,
and most of us do at some point.
yeah.
Um,
But as you
but
said, when
as
we surrender,
yeah,
then we actually understand it's that allowing, and I'm being taken where I need to be. There's
hmm
something else that you've written which I really love: conscious capitalism, the
hmm
principles of prosperity. And I think
hmm
that is something that we're really looking at, isn't it? Now, what is prosperity? Now, for the last 40 odd years, we've been looking at profit at the expense of people and planet. And we're seeing that doesn't work. We have poor people, not only in the bank account, but poor in their souls, in their consciousness, poor in their actions, poor in their lack of self-love or love for anyone. We don't have the right kind of prosperity. Excuse me, I'm going to sneeze. There's an allergy out there today that's getting me. Um, I think what we need to do is relook. So I call it, like, I love seeing the conscious, you know, um, choice there. How do you see it? How do you see the way we should look at, prosperity and raise that consciousness to it?
well, prosperity. When you say prosperity, a lot of people think money, but that's just one aspect of an abundance and wealth. Let's say um, there's um, there's physical prosperity, which generally would be considered money. Uh, there's emotional prosperity. There's mental prosperity. There's spiritual prosperity. Relationships and connection to something greater. They're all part of things that we can tap into and make our own. And so, a principle for prosperity is really about seeing the bigger picture, the inclusive picture, trying to make it as broad as possible,
Mm-hmm.
to include as much as possible, because that's we're entitled to the full gamut.
Mm-hmm.
And so, um, when I wrote Principle of Prosperity, which is, I mean, conscious capitalism, which is now about 22 years, I guess,
Mm.
ago, um, it really was focused on spirituality and business, taking
Yes.
spiritual principles and applying them to business. And it's about being inclusive, and
Mm-hmm.
again, being as broad as possible in how you treat people and how you look at the world, and the basic point that I was making is when you do that, it's at least as profitable and prosperous as when you don't. In other words, a lot of people think, well, if I do those things, I'm going to suffer. My bank account will suffer.
Yeah.
Uh, and that's not true. And in fact, there have been studies that have been done over the years since I wrote the book, increasing number of studies showing that the companies that prosper are the ones that act in a responsible way and take the needs and desires of all stakeholders, not just the
Mm-hmm.
investors, um, into account and into consideration. And so it's not rocket science, but we grew up thinking that sorry.
Let there be light.
We grew up thinking of again, this is what goes back to our beliefs. Our beliefs were that the stockholder is the king, is the one that
Yes.
needs to be front and center and only considered. And it's obviously not true. When your employees, your customers, your suppliers, the environment, when they're all considered and given equal weight, um, people are more motivated, more productive, more loyal.
Mm.
So all of that accrues to the benefit of the bottom line
Yes.
of the stockholder. So it, it it makes a lot of sense when you step back and get out of the old belief,
Yes.
which again takes some time. When I first started doing this, got a lot of ridicule, a lot of questioning, but
You were ahead of your time, that's for sure.
well, a little bit, and now, I mean, even the Business Roundtable in the United States, which is a very conservative group, has within the last year or so come out with exactly what was stated in the Conscious Capitalism book,
Mm.
that we have to look at all stakeholders and we have to take a more inclusive and broader view. So this is something that is for our own good, and really self-interest really is what motivates us. And so if we know that this is good for us, then uh, there's no reason not to do it.
Right.
It's not only good for everybody, but it's good for us as well.
Yeah. Yes, I think one of the gifts that COVID has given us right now is that it's taken the spotlight off the shareholders and the CEOs and, the big top notches that everybody seems to want to be and, revere. But we're now looking at, the grocery workers, the food truck drivers, the janitors, the forefront people, the medical people, all of the people that has kept us going during this
Mm.
pandemic. It wasn't the CEOs. There's very few companies that have stepped up. Some have. Bravo to them. And there's been some that have, gone into the profiteering from it. And I think people are going to look at them and go, why would I want to do business with you?
Mm.
I'm going to do business with somebody over here that laid down their bottom line and stepped up to serve their community or serve, the people that worked for them. So I think that COVID has been an enormous shift on who are our daily heroes and why have we put these other people up on a pedestal, right?
But
And,
yeah, there's a program you may be familiar with, or some of the listeners might be, called Undercover Boss. Have you heard?
yes, yes,
And that illustrates the point beautifully.
yes,
When the boss goes undercover and for the first time in many cases sees what a contribution the
yes,
lowly workers are making to his well-being,
yeah,
it's a enlightening moment. They appreciate the contribution everybody makes, and hopefully share the wealth more evenly as a
yeah.
result.
Yes.
Um,
And
so
certainly share the gratitude and appreciation more,
yes,
because,
absolutely
there's certainly not people that are considered,
right.
in anything. They're, just the ant workers, so to speak, which, as I said, this paradigm has changed it quite considerably. I think also to be a good CEO or president of a company is wear everybody's hat climbing
Mm-hmm.
up,
Yeah.
be the janitor. I mean, look, if that place isn't clean and somebody walks in to do business with the CEO up in the ivory tower there and
Mm-hmm.
everything about it is dirty, do you want to do business with that company?
Of course not.
So the janitor is that first face, that cleansiness that you go in there. And then, of course, the customer service, the people that are there to greet. One of the beautiful things I've noticed in all my business shows now is how much encouragement is being coached into people. What is the heart and soul of your business?
Mm-hmm.
Whom does it serve? How do they benefit beyond the product? And it's so beautiful to see this now because the words heart and soul are being used. the word spirituality being used, and it's not a faux pas anymore. It's a realizing if we don't connect, if we don't speak from our heart, why would people come to us? Because people are going to buy you before they'll buy anything from you. So if they can really feel your heart and soul and your conviction over what you're doing, then they're going to want to do business with you or work for you.
And you'll find that, when you operate that way, uh, you, you get loyalty, you get
Yeah.
referrals. It's a continuous circle that comes back to benefit you. And so there's absolutely no reason not to act that way. As I say, it's in your self-interest, and it's only because our beliefs have been ingrained for so long differently that we struggle a little bit in making that change. But it's not only pretty obvious once we do it, but intellectually it should be obvious as
Yes.
well.
When we get a virus in a program, what do? We're frantic to get that virus out there and to make sure that everything in the program is stabilized and running smoothly. Well, why can't we look at this old programming as a virus? It is no longer serving, it's contaminating, it's spreading, and we're going to have to delete the entire program if you don't get rid of the virus. And sometimes that's what you have to do, get rid of the whole program. But the old stitch in time. Why can't we address something at the beginning instead of waiting for it to escalate?
Yeah, you wonder about that, and of course we all do it to some extent.
Yeah.
But we're at the point now where we really have to examine, as we said at the very beginning, all our institutions, all our ways of operating, and start from the beginning. If we are going to redesign our healthcare system, or our education system, or our political system, would we do it the same way? And the answer, I think, is not.
Yeah.
And so it takes some courage and some foresight, but we're at the point where we have to do that, and we need to get more and more people thinking that way. And this crisis is helping us.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I think that I'm hopeful that we'll get the message and do what needs to be done.
And this crisis is going to be around for a while. We're seeing some countries have great difficulty with it because of the divide, or poverty, not being able to get testing and not being able to get treatment. But, and other countries have become our example, of what they are doing. I don't think this is going to be over tomorrow, or, I think maybe June of next year is when we're going to be actually breathe a sigh of relief and, okay, now we can venture out. But there is no going back to normal, because we know normal didn't work. I think it's going to take that almost 18-month period to insert a new norm where actually kindness, caringness, and consideration and gratitude are the forefronts.
Yeah. I agree 100%. And, hopefully we'll have a new administration in the United States who will
yes, hopefully.
take that and make the changes that need to be made. And I should say one thing that is a little bit disputed, I guess, and that people won't agree with. But what has happened with many leaders, including in the United States, has been, and I don't like anything that's been going on, but in a sense, they've been helping us. They've made things so extreme and so bad that it's forced us to look at these things.
Yes.
So everything has its pluses and minuses, advantages and disadvantages. And what we've been going through has not been pleasant. Many people are very upset about it. But if you take the big picture and look at things, that unless things go to an extreme, we ignore them.
Yes.
So
yeah.
I think that we've been, things that have been happening are happening all for a reason. And hopefully we'll will make the changes that need to be changed.
I mean, that's the reason why this particular administration is in, because nobody would have believed that these are the kind of people running the country or the world, had you not had somebody in the forefront telling everybody.
Right.
And, you know, you had to look at that and go, I cannot believe that person is in power, saying and doing what they're doing. And the fact that he's allowed to be and he's protected is a wake-up call for everybody going, what happened here? You know, the Constitution and everything else was there to protect the people. And we certainly had not been seeing that, but only through those extremes do we, you know, wake up and go, oh my God, I've been asleep all this time. I've been allowing this to happen. It's now time for me to step up and, you know, change it up within myself, within my community, stepping up in whatever way I can. The Celtic runes have a wonderful rune called Haglas, and Haglas is disruption. And you can't have clarity before you have disruption, because you've got to clean out the old in order for the clarity to come in.
Well, that's again exactly right, and uh, I think I see signs that that's happening, but I think it'll take a change of political leaders and a courage and willingness. It's going to require some sacrifice.
Yes.
And that's not something we do easily.
No, no.
But we've dug ourselves into a hole, and it's going to take some effort to get out of there. You know, if we can see that the results will be well worth the effort, I think we'll make the effort. But
Well, what people are needing is the guidance. You know, they realize they're in the sewage pit right now and they need to get out. But it's like, where's the ladder, or how, or who do I trust, or what do we do now? So this is where really conscious leaders, whether they be political or, you know, just, you know, inspirers, need to step up, because guidance is needed right now. If this is not the path, how do I get to that path? And I think more and more what we're seeing, more conscious coaches and counselors and spiritual leaders stepping up, being that guidance, you know, to our own soul awakening, to our own consciousness, and understanding that every single one of us is an answer, every single one of us is a contributor, and that it's not for us to hand ourselves over to someone else. It is for us to be inspired by someone in order to find oneself.
We're getting help from a lot of different places.
You were saying that we are getting help?
Yeah, we're getting help from a lot of places. I mean, there are people currently on the planet who are leading us and providing more information, more clarity, more wisdom. And we're getting help from all over the universe.
Yes.
There are those from everywhere who are helping in different ways, and you know, it's not always obvious. I'm aware of some of it, and again, there's a concerted effort to make this shift here, and I think that.
What particular messages have you received for this time and direction to go in?
Well, for the past 22 years, I've been mentored by my guides. And so they've given me help in seeing the big picture, which I can't see from where I am.
Right.
And, you know, they're the ones who alerted me to the fact that what's happening is happening for a reason, i.e. the leaders we're having are necessary at this time. That some of my guides come from different places in the universe and have gone through this before, something very similar, and are here to help us get through this now.
Yeah.
And of course, our souls want to be here now. I mean, our souls have chosen to be here now because this is an unusual time, and they want to experience it too.
Yes.
They want to experience it through us. And so we're getting input from many places and help from many places. And so I'm really pretty confident that things will turn out for the best, even though it's not going to be easy.
Right.
It's not going to be fast. It's going to require some sacrifices.
But it's the turning point.
But there's light that we
Yes.
can see ahead of
Yes.
us,
Yes. And it's
and
exciting too. I mean, when you
it's
choose to
exciting.
look at that light, it's exciting. And you can find your
Yeah.
courage and strength from that, knowing I may not know what lies ahead of me or what is needed of me, but if I am willing, ready, and able to walk it in trust, I
Mm-hmm.
will, it will be revealed. But that free will of wanting to be a part of the solution, wanting to be a part of it, and willing to follow that guidance and see where it takes you and what role you have to play in it.
And realize there's going to be some who use their free will not to follow,
Right.
and that's okay. That's their
Mm-hmm.
choice. But don't be misled by that.
Yes.
Don't, you know, follow your own path, your own instincts, your own inspiration,
Yeah.
and
Don't let
as long
others
as we
deter you.
right, and as long as there are sufficient numbers, which I think there will be, who are
Yeah.
moving in the right direction, they'll eventually join us.
Mm-hmm.
But there's going to but we see the division now, and I mean the division for those who wear a mask or don't wear a mask.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
The virus
you
is a
know,
hoax. It's not a hoax. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, they have free will not to wear a mask, and a lot of them will learn the hard way, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
But uh, we just have to be uh, confident and trusting and follow our inspiration, and
Yeah, we
things
don't
will
want
turn out.
people to blindly follow. We don't want a Pied Piper type thing where, you
No,
know, uh, you are one. No, like there are trillions of cellular structures in our body, and they make up our body and the wellness of our body. One breaks down, it starts breaking down another and has a domino effect. We have to consider ourselves a cell in this collective, and we're very important as a cell in keeping ourselves, well, healthy, mind, body, and soul, so that we can keep the collective healthy. And when we look at it as that, do we want to be the cell that brings the body down, or do we want to be the cell that pumps it up?
you're right, and yet some people don't have that understanding or that vision, and so they don't. They're not willing to trust and move forward in that vein. Um, and that life on Earth is a school,
Yeah.
and we're learning,
Mm-hmm.
and you need some who are deviating in order to learn even more,
Right.
who are making mistakes,
Yeah.
so there's nothing that nobody is bad. No, there's nothing. There's no good or bad, right or wrong.
Yeah.
Everyone is following um,
Their own beliefs.
their their beliefs, and they'll learn from them.
Yeah.
And
And
we
and there
must
are, and there are some that will once they see, this new paradigm, this new consciousness come into play, they are the followers. They're not the leaders. And we
right,
will always have that. And then once they see, oh gosh, yes, that looks much brighter, I'm going to adapt and adopt now. And there will always be those that will be against it. And kind of the way of the dinosaurs, they will die out because they won't be able to survive, in the disconnect so completely. And
right,
that again is the free will, it's the choice. But we have to ask ourselves really and honestly, what do we want out of life? Do we want to be that high energy, that inspiration, that love, and that kindness, and seeing joy in the world and seeing, everybody benefit? Do we want to be a part of that collective, which really is wonderful? Or do we want to be part of that cynical, nothing is real, everything is a conspiracy, that hate realm, which eats you up from the inside out? It consumes you. But only the person in the darkness can answer that. And that journey to come back out into the light and to be a part of this is a journey, and not everybody's equipped to take it.
right. It takes time.
Mm-hmm.
People have to make the choice themselves,
Patience and
and
persistence.
yeah, and um, we'll all look back on this period and say what a wonderful experience it's been,
Yes. Yes.
and it's hard to see that sometimes.
Yeah.
But uh, I'm very hopeful. I see that things are moving forward, and there's more and more people who are of the same mind
Yeah.
and are
And the
making the
same
right choice.
hearts and the same souls, right? Getting the same
Same
soul
heart.
message. Yeah.
They realize that we have the same. We are a cell in the body of
Yes.
humanity,
Yes.
and when we understand that, we'll act accordingly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. And
And
it's the responsibility is to speak to those that hear us, to inspire and invite them to want to step up. We can't go, and try and save those that are just unwilling to embrace it. So speak, be the choir, be the orchestra that uplifts people and invites people. Again, that free will, we don't want them to be forced to come, because then that is not in truth. We want them to make this journey willingly, because then they do become part of that beautiful collective.
that's my understanding completely.
Mm-hmm.
And we can see that there is a movement, that
Yeah.
there is a lot of reason for hope,
Yes.
and um, but there's going to be some rough spots. I mean, let's not poo-poo it.
No.
It's not going to be a smooth sailing,
A little roller coaster ride.
right?
Hold on to your seat.
But we're getting where we need to go, and
Yeah.
and if we follow our soul's inspiration,
Mm-hmm.
listen
Mm-hmm.
to our heart.
Mm-hmm.
Um, About maybe 20, almost 30 years ago, I wrote a book, The New Bottom Line: Bringing Heart and Soul to Business,
Mm.
and
You were ahead of your time.
that was all about just what we're talking about,
Mm-hmm.
and you know,
And it's finally, I mean, it's taken 30 years for people to register that the heart and soul needs to be in your business.
yeah,
Needs to be. How many people start businesses with the heart in it and the soul in it? And then as it gets bigger, they bring in shareholders, and then it becomes all about the shareholders on the bottom line, and they've forgotten the reason why they started it in the first place.
right.
Don't
That,
forget the
that, that,
heart.
that happens, and it's a learning experience.
Mm-hmm.
It's they'll either get the message or they will um, not find the fulfillment that they thought that they would.
Yeah.
Life is about finding meaning, finding fulfillment, and um, we get that in different ways at different times, and there's no right answer.
Right.
There's a lot of paths, and fortunately, more and more people are getting on the path that
Yeah.
will bring us what we really want.
I'm very, very infused. I did a series called Let's Get Synced, which was the changing of the environmental climate mind before you can go about and change the environment. And mostly it was people that were throughout Europe. And I was really stoked to see things that were being done, with organizations, with governments, with industries on, people, planet, for profit, not the other way, and changing that conscious, changing the way they look at the people that work for them, changing their customer, not just looking at them as a dollar sign. And it really gave me a great deal of hope that this is in play. But as you say, we just need to turn the volume up on it to tilt the scale a little bit. Once you've tilted that scale, it's going to gather its own momentum. But it's kind of teeter-tottering at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's happening all over the world.
Yes.
We only look
Yes.
about our own little local area generally, but uh, because I've visited over 50 countries
Mm,
and taken so many trips to China, everybody's the same. We all
mm,
have the same desires and same
mm,
fears and same motivations, and the more people recognize that, and that includes Chinese people
mm.
who we have. Some people have some bad thoughts about that,
Oh, yeah.
and I'm not saying that the government does not have its faults. It certainly
Right.
does. Um,
What
but the
government
people,
doesn't?
but right. exactly. But if you separate out the authorities from the people,
Yeah.
then you really see what is going on and how similar we all are.
Yeah.
And that gives us hope too, that we're all learning together and making better and better choices. And so again, I'm hopeful. I'm very hopeful.
I'm very hopeful too. I'm very inspired where things are going right now. And as you know, as horrific COVID is for those that have suffered from it, families that have lost people, and also the economic change. But there again, it is, you know, when you strip everything down and you have to rebuild, well, you know, who are you going to take care of? The shareholder first? No, because if you don't take care of the people that are propping up the shareholder, there's going to be nothing to hold the shareholder up. So, you know, it's giving everybody a totally different perspective, and it's an opportunity to paint a new canvas. And I
Yeah.
think it's very exciting these times. And I think your books, although written so long ago, are so now. You know,
Mm-hmm.
people are more and more ready to read them now. And having said that, how do they get your books and how do they find you?
Well, my website is www.consciousthinking.com. That's CONSCIOUS thinking.com. And there I have a lot of my material on there, and a lot of my travel experiences, and I can be reached through the website. And so that's one area. The other thing that people might find interesting is that I've been writing for, I guess now 8 or 10 years, for the Times of India, and they have a spiritual website, and a lot of well-known people who have been writing for it. And so it's
Mm-hmm.
speakingtree.in for India, and slash David Schwerin.
Can
And
you spell
so,
your Schwerin, please?
excuse me?
Can you spell your surname?
Oh, sure. Schwerin. Schwerin. And so there's a lot of material there that people might find interesting. And so either of those websites um, can be looked
It's the
at.
willingness to learn, isn't it? We know that we need change and we know that we don't have all the answers, but we have to look to the people that have taken the journey before us. And, you know, by reading your books, every single one of your books, however long ago were written, are so apropos right now. And by reading these books, people are going to get maybe only one or two things that is that propellant forward or that answer that they're seeking. But it, you know, it becomes that guidance that they're needing because we are willing and able to change, but we don't always understand how, what, and where. And having somebody that's actually addressed that already, especially coming from kind of a past paradigm, creating a path to a new paradigm, is something that people are really needing right now. So your books are all still able to order. Can they get them through your site?
Uh, Actually, be honest with you, my conscious thinking, my conscious capitalism and conscious globalism are out of print. Um, but the soul book, which is really Know Your Soul, Bring Joy to Your Life, is really, which I've written just within the last 6 months or so, is really where the focus needs to be, because we have to understand who
Mm-hmm.
we are
Yeah.
and what we're here for.
Yes.
If we do that, then the rest falls into
Yes.
place.
Yes.
So I would start with that one. Um, and, you know,
And then definitely looking at the Indian journeys and looking
yes.
at all the other things, the experiences, because we learn from other people's experiences. You know, this is, I also think that, you know, in the past, once you hit kind of the, you know, mid 50s, 60s mark, it was retirement, put you out to pasture. And we're seeing more and more now, 50s, 60s, and 70s of a new career.
Mm-hmm.
Of all that wonderful experience and wise experience and beautiful soul and heart and spirit knowledge that we've gathered as being, you know, the mentors for those that are coming up. So it's, you know, it's a wonderful time to see that because we really are seeing this abundance of knowledge being shared. And for
Mm-hmm.
people that are at that crossroads, please listen. You know, listen to this podcast, share it around, you know, read his book, go to his site and look at all the other things that he has to share with you because you're looking for answers. And only through listening and reading and learning and applying will you actually discover what those answers are and discover more about yourself, because that's what we're looking at, isn't it? Discover
Absolutely.
you so you bring the best of you to the table.
Yeah. We the self-discovery, the self-exploration, until we all begin doing that in greater depth,
Yeah.
that's the only way we're going to get the peace and harmony that we all want.
Yes.
We have to get the negativity out,
Mm-hmm.
understand ourselves, and then we'll be making better choices and better decisions, and everything will change for the best. But it all starts with us.
Yes. And you know, when you say get the negative thinking out, the negative thinking out in the way that is blocking you, but that doesn't mean, you know, going la, 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 la to everything out there that's negative. It's paying attention to what is negative and
Mm-hmm.
making sure it doesn't have a negative impact on you or what you're doing,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because there's always the balance. It's feed what you want to grow.
Right.
Don't feed what you're afraid of. Conscious thinking, I love that, you know, because until we give our minds permission to think consciously, we can't hear the soul, heart, or spirit. So, you know, that is the first step we need to do, is that consciousness in our thoughts to ignite the soul and the heart to the equation. And we've got to start somewhere, and you know, the head's permission, giving the head permission to get out of itself and listen to the feelings, is, I think, one of the first steps we need to do. So thank you so much for sharing with us here today, David.
I enjoyed it very much. Thank you for inviting me.
And you know, the fact that you've been doing this for so long, most certainly one of those beautiful mentors that are, you know, have a lot to share. And if people want to reach out and have a conversation with you, can they just get you through the site?
Yes, sure. Through the
Excellent.
consciousthinking.com.
Okay, and you do speaking engagements, which right now I assume are through Zoom instead of in
Right,
public.
right. It's difficult at this time.
Yeah, but hey, this is what Zoom is for. You know, this is technology has stepped up to be that replacement, and we can still get that wisdom out, which is important. And you know, as you've said all the way through the thread here, it's our free will. It's well, you know, if we're willing to take the path and understand it's a bumpy path, it's not always easy. It doesn't have to be deadly difficult. You know, that is a question if we're resistant to it. But when we surrender and we're willing to take it, it's going to be bumpy. We're going to fall down a few times until we actually get to a path where we can find our equilibrium and understand our clarity, our purpose, and really embrace that. And then we really understand what we need to do here. And that's a beautiful feeling, isn't it?
It really is. And when you look back at it,
Yeah.
you'll be amazed, and
Yes.
you'll be
Grateful for the
heart
journey.
opening. Yes.
Yes, absolutely. Totally. Trust me, the waters are great. Come on in. Definitely. Well, thanks so much, David, for sharing all that today. And to everyone, remember, you know, this has been our guidance for a long time now. We just haven't been listening, and this is why right now we are getting that little cosmic 2x4. And you know, this is the time to step up. This is the time to change it up, and let David guide you. And you know, those first steps forward, because we all need that help. And once we get into that flow, we're going to reach other mentors, other leaders along the way, and we're going to take a little snippet from every one of them until we apply it to ourselves and discover who we really are. And remember, we need you. We need you in your whole beautiful abundance, because you are that beautiful cell that is needed in this collective consciousness. Until next time, folks, bye for now. We hope you enjoyed the show. We look forward to bringing you more shows. please go to selfdiscoverymedia.com/shows and you will see the incredible lineup of genres and shows that we have for you. We are here to make a difference in your life. Thank you for listening.